Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Just I was finishing court, and then I took off my jacket, and I was like, oh my god, it's 32. Time just flies when you're being yelled at by judges. Anyways,
Yes.
uh, so what's going on? How can I help you? What can we do today?
I just really want to talk to you about what it's like being a public defender representing
Sure.
proposed conservatees and what it's like. I mean, the process, the paperwork involved, problems you have. Just yeah. So I worked for Regional Center, and that's how I kind of got interested in this whole topic. And yeah, I what I saw when I was working there was the reports Regional Center wrote really didn't seem to matter very much.
Yeah.
Judges usually just made the same decisions.
I think that would be absolutely true. I mean, okay, so to first off, I'll just tell you, right, to just kind of like frame this and where I come from, right, I will just tell you that I absolutely love being a public defender, right? So where I come from is initially doing this and doing this work, both for indigent, defendants and for, conservatees, proposed conservatees, has been something that I wanted to do. Not necessarily the proposed conservatee, that's something I kind of fell into and that I've come to really enjoy and really find joy in it, right? And this was something that I really wanted to do since high school. It's kind of been working out towards that, right? So for me, being a public defender is just absolutely fantastic, right? I love it. I enjoy the work specifically because I can help people, right? And because usually it's helping to elevate the voices of people who's generally the system tends to kind of ignore or kind of mute, right? And I remember when I first started this work, I used to say, I want to give a voice to the voiceless until some, a more experienced attorney told me, it's not about them not having a voice. They have a voice. It's that sometimes people don't listen. And I was like, that's absolutely true, right? So when it comes to, my criminal defendants or my proposed conservatees, I enjoy it, right? I think it's fun and it's also heartbreaking at times, right? There are a lot of cases that I have where I get extremely invested, and you end up losing, right? So I guess I'll start off there, right? That's where I come from, and that's really where why I started doing this work, and I guess we can start off with some of the challenges, right? You want to hear about some of the challenges with proposed conservatees?
Yeah. Yeah, what's your process if you get a new petition? Mm-hmm. What do you do? What are the steps involved in that?
So generally, when I get a petition, it depends, right? I'll get a petition, I'll look at it, and I really normally don't get involved until the week before the case is set to begin, right? And that's kind of just a function of just the public defender work, right? Unfortunately, due to our caseloads and due to the amount of proposed conservatees and criminal defendants and appeals and writs and things that I'm writing, unfortunately, you tend to do a little bit of a triage situation, right? You have lots of fires everywhere, and you can only put out the fires that are currently burning, about to burn down the house, right? You have the campfire on the side, you kind of ignore that for a little bit. You know it's going to grow somewhere, you know it's going to be in your face soon, but unfortunately, you kind of got to put it aside. And unfortunately, that's what happens with my proposed conservatees. And I don't think it affects the case too much, but that's, in an ideal world, right, you get the petition, and a month before the case is set to happen, you call the people, you get involved, you start calling people, but unfortunately that's not the reality of the situation. So I'll get it, and the week of, a couple days before, I'll start doing work on it. I'll read it for the first time, I'll try to identify problems, right? I think that when it comes to these probate cases, right? And just so we're clear, and I think you're kind of more interested in probate conservatorship, right? Rather than So with the probate conservatorships, I think that there's two camps, right? There's the kind where you can kind of look at it on the face and be like, I know where this is going, right? And it's going to be inevitably something better, right? Where it's somebody who is completely brain damaged and really can't move, right? Is in a wheelchair and has been living with their mom for the last 50 years, right? Whatever it is. I don't know, 20 years, 10 years, 18 years. And in those situations, I recognize that the conservatorship is probably going to end up being in the best interest for that client because there's no one else for this person, right? Oftentimes, it's the only family member that's ever cared for them. And I will look over the petition, and it kind of creates this weird situation where I am only for the proposed conservatee, and I'm only supposed to prepare, like, help his interests. But oftentimes, like, I find myself being like, okay, well, what can I do to try to make my client's life a little better? And if it means I get to maybe kind of not work together with the petitioner, but like be like, hey, just so you know, you're going to have to do a North Bay Regional Center or Regional Center report. You're going to have to go file this, or you're going to have to get a capacity declaration. This is incomplete, right? And I always tell them too, like, I can't help you, I can't do anything for you, but I'm just telling you that I see some problems here, and you might have to fix them. And for the most part, they generally do, and they'll contact an attorney, they'll figure things out, and things go, that way, and it ends up being fine, right? But then there's the other cases, right? And these cases are the ones where you have individuals who are opposed to it, right? For a multitude of reasons, right? Whether it's they want their independence, oftentimes that happens with, like, I think my younger conservatees who feel like their parents are a little, like, too domineering, right? And they, even despite the fact that they might have a mental disability, they still want to live independently. And in those cases, when my client opposes it, I say, all right, no communication with the proposed petitioner other than, like, to negotiate and to try to get a good resolution. And in those situations, there's really not much left for me to do other than to litigate, right? I've at times have tried to negotiate and say, hey, you know what? How about if we do a power of attorney? How about we do a living situation where this person, whether it's like a demented older parent, just goes to a home, right? Maybe we can do that. Maybe she also wants to be independent at home. Or it's at a group home for someone who has a younger person who has just disabilities. Oftentimes I try to do that, right? Try to negotiate and try to find an alternative situation. But what ends up happening in those situations is because it is very family oriented. At the end of the day, 99% of these cases are involving family members, right? And they have very strong feelings about what they think is right and what they think should happen. And oftentimes I might propose something and it goes nowhere, right? Because they think, no, conservatorship is the only way, and you're just some punk kid here who's trying to stop this. And that might be true, right? I might just be some punk kid trying to stop it. But at that point, like, okay, well then we're going to set it for trial. And we're going to litigate it, and we have to litigate it to the end, right? Whether it's a court trial or it's a jury trial. Normally, when it comes to jury trials, so far, every time I've done that, they end up resolving. I've yet to do a jury trial for probate conservatorships. I've done jury trials for criminal clients. I've done a ton of jury trials in other cases. Where probate jury trials are very rare. I've only ever done court trials. So yeah, I when I get a petition, back to that original thing, I review it and I see whether or not it's going to be something I need to litigate or something that I can probably work, not cooperatively, but, work with them, right? Work with the petitioner and see what I can do. I think that's what I do, right? And usually I get a sense of where that's coming from too, from the court investigator's office, right? When I get their reports and the North Bay Regional Center, or we're North Bay, I don't know what regional center you were working for, but when the regional center, when I get those reports, I get a really good sense of what's going to happen, of what the family dynamics are, whether or not it's cooperative, whether or not my conservatee is going to be wanting this, or whether or not they want to oppose it.
Yeah, I've never been able to look at a probate investigator report. I always found them helpful, especially if there were problems. Like if regional center didn't agree with, say, the family members that were wanting the conservatorship, if we thought they were inappropriate for whatever reason, it was useful to talk to the investigators because they would usually put that in there. But I never saw a final report of what that looks like. So what else do they include in the investigator report besides family dynamics?
I mean, everything. I mean, they will... So it's interesting, right? So first off, let me answer your question. The things that they'll include in there will be, the family history, my client's history. They'll include things like financial information. They'll include sometimes like very limited, like they don't go into detail, but like kind of medical history. Like they'll say, if it's relevant, right? If he has brain damage, or if they'll say, he's been hospitalized in the last couple